So I wanted to start this video off with the reading of the Declaration of Independence, at least the first two paragraphs. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of the government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience have shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms of which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new gods for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. Jefferson was a fucking genius, bro. Like, if you don't have respect for Jefferson, I don't really know what's wrong with you. If I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I just don't. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. And these words there are none that any sane human would disagree with. And there are a few statements that are fundamental to the understanding of what it is to be a free man. The weight of the second paragraph is so great that it portrays the true foundational mind state of those who were at the time undertaking this momentous task. I would have taken out that all men are created equal and started it off with the idea that all men are endowed with certain inalienable rights. I understand the principle of why Jefferson put in the created equal part. It lends weight to the next statement, which are the most important words in any document ever, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You may ask why these words are so important. The idea that you have the right to your life, the right to be alive, is something that should have never needed to be stated. Every good king knows he needs his subjects as they need him. Every government knows all of its power truly rests in what it governs, the people. So the foundational idea that you should have the right to be alive should be basic. Liberty is your right to move about society. It's a basic need for humans to be able to bring their goods to market, to vote, get supplies, without the government molesting them. The pursuit of happiness is a bit more vague, but a deeper understanding of life and liberty sheds more light upon it. As long as you're not taking others' lives or interfering with others' free travel and commerce, then you should be able to basically pursue what makes you happy. These three ideas are immense and put so succinctly that to not be impressed with Jefferson, you have to basically be illiterate. On some real shit. Just keeping this all the way honest with you. The next statement is the understanding that to secure these basic rights, we form together to protect our homes and families. We band together to stop thieves, rapists, or even oligarchs from enslaving people. Things of this nature. That understanding is immense, as well as the idea that even if there was a king, he rules at the behest of the governed. The next statement is if a government starts to impede this right, it is time to get rid of that government. Also, the government should not be altered in major ways for trivial matters. Wait, as I said. that man will suffer under great burden as long as they can. But as soon as that burden becomes too great, the yoke should be thrown off, and new gods of the future should be put in. When you think about what is our future? Our futures are children and our younger individuals, our younger workers. At current right now, our current people who are guarding us, our current politicians, our current leaders, as it were, our guards, as they would put them. They don't have a problem enslaving the future generations to pay for the old. That's fundamentally wrong in the end of the day. Like, that's something that should never happen. And maybe we should have had this conversation a while ago about this, because I feel like they're not being good stewards of the future. I want everyone to understand some fundamental things before we get started today. I believe our government has not safeguarded the future. I believe it has rather fed the monsters who wish to prey upon us and enslave us in many ways. Let's begin with some basics. The original Constitution and Declaration of Independence have lasted 233 years and have done a great job. Not one of the original 10 amendments has been abolished, though much legislation has been passed to impede a lot of them. For instance, the IRS every year forces you to testify against yourself, invades your personal papers and effects, violates your right to privacy, plus you must file a form impeding your rights to the free speech. For those not keeping track, that violates the First, the Fourth, the Fifth, and the 10th Amendment. I'm not sure how they keep getting away with that. I have no idea how they get away with this on a regular basis. Local and state municipalities charge property tax on your home until you die. Also, tax on used cars, all the firearm legislation, and Social Security and Medicare tax children's futures to pay for the old. There's a lot of violations of these documents. The second fundamental principle that I want everyone to understand is the basic idea that there can never be true evil or changes in societal norms without the government's help. Monopolies are formed through the government passing laws to protect those businesses. Black people and women were pushed into parts of society where they weren't before through civil rights legislation. Lobbying and bribery were legalized through Citizens United. The government is behind most changes, even if it's just an unwitting accomplice. There are two places I want to focus on today that can affect change in our society by giving human beings the right to democratically lead the economy. Now, oftentimes you will hear, right, with the people with the magic hand, right, from Adam Smith, right? They say, well, people vote with their feet, like it's an invisible hand of the economy, right? All these type of things. That's sort of kind of true, right? You see it in kind of like Bud Light today, that everybody's kind of telling them to eat a dick. And Anheuser's going under, right? After what they did. On all sides. The idea that you can leave the economy and back away from interacting with the American society and just be whatever you are, in Illinois or, Chicagoan or whatever, right? You can just stay home. Go, yeah, I'm cool. I'm just part of my community now. I'm no longer part of the economy. I'm not, a bigger piece of this. That's a fundamentally changing idea. Number one, an end to property tax. The reasons for these are threefold: the need for elderly and the sick to be able to stop working, the perverse incentives of local municipalities, and the economic ramifications of the lack of business. Number two, the right to grow food. The reasons for this are fivefold. People have the right to life. B, communities need local sources of food. C, big agriculture has destroyed our food supplies. And D, humans are now completely disconnected from the earth. And E, pollution. Let's get started with property tax. Property tax dates back to 3000 BC. Clay tablets have been found inscribed with tax amounts. And throughout history, when a tax was put in, the assessors were often beaten and killed, especially in America up to the times of FDR. Once the army even had to get involved after 19 men were held hostage and beaten in balls for taxing locals. The taxmen were so hated that when the man John Fry was sentenced, the people protested and the governor was forced to release him. The main reason why these taxes are so hated is because they never end. And it shows the people no matter how hard you work, you never actually own the land they live on or the house you live in. It says to the human beings being governed, we can come and take your house from you if you don't pay us. Well, what happens if you get sick or injured? Or if you can no longer pay? If a tragedy happens to you and you have no money? Or if your spouse gets arrested? Or if you're in a car wreck? Most of us are only one bad day from complete ruin. One drunken urination outside of a bar from losing everything. Then it's back to the bottom and you lose your house because you can't pay your taxes. Does it seem fair? No? It's because it isn't. Let's talk about tax assessors. The vast majority of the places where property tax happens is a local affair. It's passed by your own town, your city, your county, your borough. Because most of these places cannot raise sales taxes or income taxes. The only way to increase their tax revenue is to increase the home's value. Well, how does a local municipality make home values increase? You make sure you pass laws to increase curb appeal. What does this mean? What is this? Nonsense. Well, you as a homeowner now lose your right to garden or farm, build a shed, change your house color. You must grow grass and keep with it. Inspections are done of remodelings. Cars have to be kept up to date with stickers, plates. Now you're not allowed to work on your vehicle in your driveway. Everything must be the same so they can sell it to anyone. You lose your rights to your property, and you pay for that privilege. So with the idea of curb appeal in mind, the idea of having local businesses go out of the window. Since you cannot charge anything, you cannot change anything, permits are rarely granted to start a business. In the name of peace and quiet for the local boomers, you young and you want a bar? Too bad, the local municipality will have none of that. Middle age and want a restaurant? Too bad, you cannot have such things. Lose your license trying to go to a bar miles away? Or catch a cab to the grocery store 30 miles away. Does it seem dumb? It is. There'll be no local economics. If you want local economy, you need to move to a city. How did this become the way? Well, of course, it's the boomers. Silly? What else did you think it was going to be? As pay started to stagnate back in the 1980s, the need for money to keep up with inflation became a necessity. And you and your home you bought for 3 Uno cards and a chicken wing was now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Better take out a second mortgage and buy a boat. Those poor people who just lost their job, call the local borough authorities. They have a car they're trying to get running so they can go get a new job after theirs got shipped down to China. The borough hands them a fine that they can't pay. They're evicted. And new people move in who can then pay the bills. And they're going to fix up their property. And now yours is worth even more. Your pay hasn't gone up, but hey, by God, your net worth is through the roof. And the local municipality just bought the police some new cruisers. We'll keep those poor folks in line. You're not a racist. You're a yuppie. Now, to the right to grow food. You would figure this is a right you already have. To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure why I'm even having to type this, but I'm going to. All life comes from the soil. If you haven't seen Lion King, now will be a good time to go check out the circle of life. Some pretty basic stuff. The lion eats the gazelle, his poop, and him at some point become the grass. The grass gets eaten by the gazelle, and the cycle repeats. We all need food to live, so the right to grow it should be a fundamental human right. I started this out with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The right to life is basic. You have the right to live. You're not entitled to another man's work, but growing your own food. Why is this even a question? Communities. Communities are like families. They're made out of humans, and humans need food. More importantly, they need local food. When I say the word culture, what pops in your head? Some French guy in a striped shirt, an Italian dude tossing a pizza, a black guy with his pants half hanging off of his ass pointing a gun sideways, These are all cultures. At their fundamental core, they're a group of people with a shared geography, religion, ethnicity, language, food, or art. Healthy cultures have all of these and a few more. If you want a healthy culture, you need to start at the fundamental core, geography. Because geography is where you get your food from, what grows near you. Strawberries, cows, wheat, deer, corn, rhubarb, pecans, pumpkin. What's your local cuisine? It's the core of why people like other cultures and interact with them. You need local food production. All people should have the right to grow their own food and form their own cultures. That seems so simple. Why is... So it'll be the same so we can just buy goy slop and everybody can just eat Reese's Puffs, like whatever. Big agriculture, or as we call it, goy slop. Goy slop is a disgusting way of providing mass quantities of food to sustain a population at the lowest cost. It's basically on a level of Neo in the Matrix still being in a pod and being fed the dead. Efficiency is the enemy of good food. Add to that the idea that human beings are not made to eat carbohydrate-dense, sugar-laden trash. We end up then with an issue that is pervasive and dangerous. I want to end goy slop. And the first step is allowing the opportunity to compete with mega corporations with food from their land and the land around them that is cheap, safe, and healthy. It's so simple. This brings me to my next point, Gen Z. Gen Z is so dumb and spoiled, they think that meat is made in the grocery store. We have become completely disconnected from the earth in ways our grandparents would have slapped us upside the head for. I will admit, I'm pretty inept as a gardener. I plant food and most of the time nothing grows. Is this because I suck? Maybe, probably. But the problem is I've never been taught how to garden. I myself have become disconnected from the planet. And I feel like it is almost time to return. My last point is as a human being who drives food around for a living, the way we move food around, processed food, packaged food, is horrible for the planet. Plastic bags, trucking, shipping, rail, highways, fertilizers, pesticides, planters, combines, Mexicans. For every 1 calorie of food eaten in the Western world, there are 10 calories of petrol energy getting it to you. On average, every food that comes to your table travels 2,000 miles before it lands on your plate. It's awful, wasteful, and pollutes so much more than it needs to be. Runoff from CAFOs, or concentrated animal feeding operations, going into our rivers and causing algae blooms and all other terrible pollutional problems, make humans, fish, and other animals completely sick. Add to that, there is not an animal on this planet that does not have plastic inside of its body in every piece of meat you eat now. Now, I'm not some do-gooder climate change type, but even I know none of this is good. Local food production would stop all of this and destroy these giant businesses. To put all this together, the basic idea is this. All of us deserve to be treated as human beings and allowed to survive in our homes, eating better and safer in a clean place. We deserve to be able to add a room to our house if need be. We deserve to be able to take a year off to get in shape if we need to rehab our backs or our knees or our legs. We deserve to be able to be outside with our hands in the soil, growing our own food to eat dinner, to feed our children when we cannot work. We deserve to be humans and have the human right to life. And which brings me to today's sponsor, right? Today's sponsor is Rad Light. Rad Light has all types of really cool laser light type of things. All right, it got like laser lights that, play with your cat. You can like point at things. You can set stuff on fire. They got like drones. They got these things here, right? They got batteries. They got cat toys. They got all types of stuff, man. This place is awesome. Legitimately, when you check out, right? You go here to this checkout thing, right? Man, listen, I ain't putting products in the cart because I don't put products in the cart because I don't buy things, you know what I'm saying, that often. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm broke because y'all are not buying things from my sponsors. All right, you need to go to my sponsors and buy some stuff. All right, use code Pnoid at the coupon at checkout. All right, but yo, look, Tom P's Pnoid News. If If you like this content, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll get back to y'all at some point. I'm going to holler at y'all. I'm up out of here. Later.